Welcome back to the D.H.E show, where we talk about building empires without sacrificing on bedtime stories. Each episode, we cover 2 to 4 actionable things that you can implement today in your business to help you move it forward. But maybe more importantly, we're dads and husbands, which to us, that comes first, because what's the point of building this whole business empire thing if we're not bringing our family along with us on the journey? If you're new to this show, again, welcome. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Today's show is going to hopefully help you guys understand this concept of persistent patience, not making rash decisions based on emotion, and instead trusting that the plan that you guys have worked so hard to build, trust that it's going to come to fruition. Ole and Matt, we're going to dive into an exchange that we had in the office the other day that had to do with updating pricing on our website based on an impulse versus based on logic and digging through the numbers. And hopefully it helps you guys understand that A, you need a plan. You got to have a plan. But B, you got to have the mental toughness and the confidence in what you've set forth between you, between your founders, between everybody that should be collaborating on this thing to stick to it until the end. So without further ado, let's just jump into today's podcast. Welcome back to the D.H.E show. We are going to dive into a topic today that Ole brought up this morning around price points on the website and whether or not we need to make a change. And I thought, why not just record this? Because chances are, if you are new to entrepreneurship, you're trying to sell product, you're figuring this thing out, you're going to have a lot of questions around pricing and how to offer stuff up on your website in particular. So let's dive in.
Okay, Matt, I appreciate bringing that up, but before we get started, a little bit of context behind this. We've seen a lot of changes. We've seen good stuff in the last, 20 days in the business, but we've also seen a lot of just sales, organic sales. We're spending a shitload of money with Meta. Organic sales just aren't coming in the way that I'd hoped. And so when
organic sales or paid ad sales?
Paid ad sales, but I call it organic because it's not a recurring sale. So I use organic sale as that. That's how I think of it, because you got recurring sales, like a lot of our orders every day come through are people who've already bought and buying again and again and again. So is that incorrect, by the way, Matt?
Yes.
Okay.
Organic would be someone literally just goes and types in Switchback.
Okay, recurring sales. So most of these aren't recurring sales, or most of these are recurring
first-time
sales.
purchases.
Yeah. So it just, when you're looking at this, proverbial shitstorm of what we have dealt with to this point, and there's really not an end in sight with the co-packer bullshit and everything else, you just go to a dark place. And so I start to panic. And the reason I bring that up as context for probably why I'm so whipped out of shape this morning over this stuff is there's just a lot of panic. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of just bad shit going around in my mind. So that's the context for why I came in and asked Matt some maybe stupid questions. I don't know.
I don't consider them stupid. I just want to... they're all questions that people need to talk about and ask. I think I want to maybe clarify a few things first. We're doing basically what we did the last couple months, so it's not like things are drastically different. I think the reason we're down so much is we had a gigantic order last month from one person, and it's hard to make that up. We had one person who bought more than we sold in the first 3 months of being in business.
Yeah.
Other than that one giant purchase, we're basically where we were last month. We're on track to beat it. That in and of itself is saying hey, we're actually doing pretty good. Secondly, I know it's a lot of money to us, but we're spending fucking peanuts, really, in the grand scheme of things, on paid advertising.
No, and I get that. I think the problem that I struggle with, Matt, is that we're playing with... It's not house money because it's personal debt that I've taken out, right? I personally guaranteed this is debt I have to pay back. And so every day that we spend money and we don't get something in return, it starts to compound itself. And I guess one of the things I was thinking about this morning that kind of calmed me down for about 10 minutes was that the former COO that I worked for who most people hated, but he was actually a brilliant human. He had a great piece of advice when I was selling insurance, when I was 100% commission. He goes, your draw should be middle to back of brain. He goes, if it's front of brain, you're going to make really bad decisions and you're going to let that drive you.
What does this mean? What's a draw?
A draw is basically debt you owed the company I worked for. So the company I worked for, they were the most ruthless organization in the world in the sense of you come in and they're going to give you $5,000 a month to live and they're going to cover your expenses. However, if you don't make it, if you don't sell enough to cover that and you're fired, you owe them a check for whatever debt you owe them. So at the end of your first year, if you don't sell anything and you take $10,000 a month plus $2,000 a month in expenses, you have $144,000 that you owe them if you leave, and they come after you for it.
Yeah.
And so he said, he goes, it's a scary thing, but if you trust what you're doing, you trust the little things, you do the little things, it's not going to matter. And so he goes, if the people that fail have it at front of brain and they make decisions, Matt, like me this morning, that are geared in the short term, not the long term.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where I told myself that this morning, but it just goes to show how mentally taxing it is to build a business when you're not backed by a bunch of venture capital out of Silicon Valley and, billions of dollars you can light on fire. Like when you actually have to do things and stay within budgets, it's stressful when you don't have a full-time job and all the other fun things.
I think it's interesting that you default to venture capital. No, you don't default to it, but you bring it up like that's the norm. That's such a fucking anomaly for most businesses starting. Like the average person listening to this is just like us. They have their savings pumped into something. They have a loan from a bank. They're just the normal ass people doing this.
Dude, I completely get that. The reason I say that though is because that we're not the people that people see every day. What we see in the news, what we see, in the headlines are these venture-backed tech startups, venture-backed, use Rivian as an example. I mean, they've blown through billions of dollars in cash. They're losing $40,000 a vehicle. You think their CEO doesn't sleep at night? Hell no. He's got more cash than he knows what to do with, a golden parachute. That's what I'm comparing. That's what I think about, Matt, because that's what dominates American culture. What dominates American culture is not you and I, Mr. and Mr. Small Business out there trying to build something, bootstrapping it, taking out loans. Yes, there are thousands of companies with that success story, but the ones we consistently hear about today are the venture capital backed, it's not a big deal. Let's go buy a private jet. You know what I mean? Like that's what I mean.
I think, whatever. We don't need to debate this topic, but I think you need to stop reading and listening to those stories then and focus on the reality of the world and not the anomalies.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like I said, but like again,
because I know what Rivian is. I couldn't tell you a fucking ounce of anything about what their financials are or how they're doing. But I don't care. Rivian's not even in our world.
Dude, I'm not saying they are in our world. What I'm saying is like, that is what, when you think of a startup and you think about, and we've talked about this and we're going to talk about it right now, as a founder of a startup, I feel this immense pressure to succeed. Now I know, failure's okay, but I feel this immense pressure to succeed because I've got a lot of debt. I've got, hundreds of thousands, over $500,000 in debt that I owe people. I've got one small investor. There's a pressure on me that a lot of people aren't going to feel as a founder when they don't have to write checks back if they fail. That is my whole point, is if you don't have to write checks back, it's pretty easy. But if you fail and you still owe $500,000, you feel a little bit different about your decisions every day.
Okay. We'll move on from this because that's not the point of the discussion.
No, but it sets the stage.
It sets the stage because it sets the stage for why you're asking the questions, right? Like
exactly.
Now, again, we've been doing this really full bore, well, as full bore as we are right now for how long?
4.5 months. Well, no, November, December, January, February, 3.5 months. We've been running full paid ads.
So 3.5 months.
Let's back up. 3.5 months of having ads that are actually optimized, doing what they should, and engaging. We ran a lot of ads for 3 months and spent $60,000 and got zero. Right. So I mean, yes. 3 months. 3 months.
Call it 3 months. Our budget is we're running roughly $300 a day, just for transparency, which nets out to about $9,000-ish 10 grand a month in Meta, right? Which is a lot of money. It's $120,000 a year. It does add up, but in the grand scheme of things, like that's nothing for a food brand, really. I mean, a lot of the food brands that you and I know and that we work with and that we've talked to are doing 100 grand a month, which I know that's someday, but so 3 months, and outside of cycling one gigantic order from last month, we're basically on track or slightly ahead of last month, right? So where does the fear, like what was the trigger this morning where you're like, dude, it's broken, shit's not working, we got to fix something?
I think the trigger was no new first time buyers in the last 24 hours. And I know you can laugh, and I know people are gonna chastise me, and people are probably scoffing, but like that to a startup who is drowning in debt, that feels like a big fucking deal. And so you sit there and you go, man, do we need to change something? Do we need to change? And so my mind goes to, what can we change? Something must be like, it just, my mind goes to dark places, right? And I don't give a fuck who you are. This is natural, and you're going to experience this in startup land no matter what. And it's going to suck. So we're trying to, I mean, like, thank God I got Matt to bounce this off of, who slaps me back into reality or, looks at me like I'm a fucking moron.
So I think that context helps a ton. Like, your concern is we're not getting new people in the door. And so Ole emailed me this morning with I sleep in a little bit in the mornings. Ole's up early. So a very common thing for me is check my phone after I get up and get my coffee, and I start going through my day. And yep, I got a message from Ole pretty much every day. And the one today was, hey, we need to figure out if we need to offer cheaper products on our website, like some sort of intro price point into our world, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was the question. Part of it was stemmed from, are we not capturing people into the ecosystem because our entry price point is $26.99 plus shipping?
Which, by the way, that entry price point just became $26.99 a week ago.
Yeah, we dropped the price point to $26.99.
So we already made a change, a significant change in a week.
And in those few days, we saw a lot of people did not balk at paying $4.90 to ship, what is equivalent to, what's that, 35 cups of vegetables and fruit. So...
But where I'm more going with that is, we made a change on our website less than a week ago. A pretty big change. We go from $30 to $26.99 on our intro price point. Like, that's a big change. We have had barely any people in, not barely, we've had, roughly 1,000 people into the website in the last week, but we don't know how that change is going to impact things long term. That $26.99 could be it could be in a month, after we actually see what happens with a decent set of people coming through, that was the only change we needed to make to spur trial.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like, this wasn't us being that price drop, by the way, wasn't me on an irrational behavior or just be like, we need panicking. It was, I mean, Matt, you can attest, I sent you spreadsheet after spreadsheet. Like, I was doing a lot of math. We pulled fulfillment in-house. Like, there's a lot of things that led up to that. That was a logic-backed decision, right? Not like this morning sending you the email that was purely an emotional decision. So
you put a lot of time and thought into that new price point and the new structure, which I totally agree with. Rob agrees with. It makes a ton of sense. It aligns us better with the industry. It does help from a financial standpoint, but it also gets a cheaper product out to consumers. Win-win-win all around. Great reasons. And here we are just a few days later saying, oh man, like, we need to do more, different, change the website.
And it's funny is I feel like I'm on actually we need to get some Eames chairs like Frasier and sit here like we're in therapy, because hearing you say that out loud makes the email I sent this morning sound so irrational. Like, you gotta give it time. I can't make a decision in 6 days, 5 days. But it's like, I got to admit, like, it's tough not to. I mean, you can sense the passion in my voice talking about, like, I felt panic this morning, and I feel panic almost every day, but this morning it felt immense. It felt urgent. And
yeah,
thankfully I had you to bounce ideas off of, so I didn't lose my mind and think like, man, I am an idiot.
Dude, all of this is I think totally normal. And part of why I wanted to hop on and record this instead of us just talking through it is, A, I want to reference back to this in the future. Like, hold on, here we are. But I totally lost my train of thought. Wow, I'm a fucking idiot.
No, dude, it's all good because, so like while you think about the train of thought, one of the things, so like I sent Matt an email, and let me actually pull it up because like this will give you guys some good insight into how nuts my morning was. In terms, like, and again, it wasn't just the morning, right? It was last night. It was yesterday afternoon. It was. I mean, it's tough. Like, and like that's a friendly reminder. Like, we both Matt and I like Andy Frisella, and he always says being an entrepreneur is fucking tough. And if you're listening to this and you're starting a business, like, go find your support system because thank God I got Matt, I got my dad, I got my wife. Like, I got some rocks that are probably sick of me, but prop me up.
It's not just starting a business. Yes, starting a business is incredibly tough. But, when I was at Target running the deli business, this would be a very common discussion, right? Sales suck. The items aren't selling. Things aren't going. And what you can't do, like Target, in every food company, every major company out there that's selling products to people, you spend months and months and months building a plan. You figure out trends and assortment. You do all of the things like this is my business. This is how it's going to be for the next year. And you forecast every week, every month what you think is going to happen. And it never goes up, 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 up. There's always ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. That's business.
Yeah, I mean, if I think back to May of last year, I met a guy who owned a company down in Florida. Smart guy. And he sold it, started it in college. They bootstrapped it. They made, trinkets. And he said to me, he goes, just know that you're going to go days without sales. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, you'll go days. Because you might go a week without a sale in your first year. He's like, it's normal. And I was like, and I remember thinking my ego at the time really took over. And I was like, shit, we're gonna be $1 million company in 3 months. And the sad part is, the reality is he was spot on. What I didn't expect, and I think part of it, Matt, was I just didn't expect sales once you get rocking and rolling, once you get people trying the product. I didn't expect it to be so emotional every day at this point. And it's not emotional to me, it's not about the money coming into the bank account. It's about seeing the growth. It's about seeing more subscribers. Yes, that equates to money. I get that. But it's not like, it's not the win of the money that gets me excited. It's like, oh, we got another customer. Great. Okay, we're growing. Like, this is a good thing. We're building.
I agree with you. I don't think that you're doing any of this for the money that you could make in the future, but I do think you're asking a lot of questions based on how do we make sure we're not losing any more money right now. Like, I do think you're very money focused.
What's my dad's line to us that you had never probably heard until my dad said it to us in that phone call?
Well, I heard it before. I've just heard it in big businesses, not in startup world. We're going to spend our way out of this.
Yeah, my dad, former CFO of a major company.
I think you've mentioned that a few times.
Yeah, I mean, he said he goes you're not gonna save your way out of this. You're gonna spend your way out of it. You're gonna sell your way out of it. And in this case, to sell our way out of it, we need to spend our way out of it, right? We need more customers, we need more growth, and that is wisdom from Rob Hovde. That is undeniably some of the greatest wisdom for a startup. Of we can cut costs. I mean, I emailed Matt and I said, hey, do we offer a 3-pack on our website for $9.99 plus shipping? What would that do? It would make us significantly less money. 2, do we trial a 6-pack and lower the cost? So basically, do we go from $26.99 to $22.99? Again, it just takes margin out of our pocket. We don't have any. And here's Matt. What did you ask me when you said the 6-pack? What was your response to me?
Where is that coming from?
You said it better though. You asked another way of putting it was what?
What did I say that was better?
You asked, is this feedback from customers? Yeah. And I gave you the most roundabout bullshit, stupid malarkey you could possibly hear. Because I was trying to justify, in that moment, my desperation and my dissatisfaction in the moment. And I'm calling that out because, number one, I got to take inventory and admit that. But number two, like, we don't have any proof that people don't like the 7-pack. We don't have any proof that people don't, are upset. And so, like, don't pull an Ole here if you're listening to this and start making changes without justifying it based off what your customers want.
For anyone that's curious what Ole actually said, you said, well, that's what all food companies do. They just make decisions based on profitability and push it out to customers, which is maybe 4% of the time that's reality, but 96% of the time
that was good math.
Decisions are, well, statistics, they're all true. The only reason I push back so hard on you is because I've been at food companies my entire life. And yes, we make stupid decisions sometimes, spur of the moment because we have to. But the vast majority of us, back to what I was saying with Target and this business planning idea, is that you need to understand your business and your customers and what they need and what they want. And you need to be so sure of your business plan that you trust it because you've done the work, you've thought it through, you've done it for the right reasons. And you don't just make knee-jerk reactions every single week. And I'm not saying you are. I'm just in general. I think people get hung up on the entrepreneur journey of you got to be nimble, you got to be quick, you got to pivot, you got to do all of these things. You only do that when shit's actually truly broken. You don't just pivot and change and do all of the shiny object stuff because you feel like you need to make a change. No. You got to let your business fucking run.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, shit's not truly broken here, right? I mean, like it feels broken in 12 hours, 24 hours, but like that's a very small
You want
window.
more sales. I want more sales. I told you, I stay up at night with ulcers in my stomach too going, am I making the right moves here? Am I doing the right things? Am I really leading Ole down the right path? Or am I just full of shit? Right? Like, I don't know too. Just as much as you don't. Like, we're figuring it out as we go, but I know it takes time, and you got to let people see your message over and over and over and see your products and trust that you're a real fucking company and not a 3-month-old flash in the pan.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. It goes back to kind of that Facebook purgatory stuff, right? They have rules in place because they don't want anybody just selling to Facebook. They don't want people taking advantage of them. So, like, it takes time. It takes a lot of time to build that brand, build the recognition, get people on board, get people excited, and it's something that is it's tough. And I think that's a moral of this conversation is like, don't make irrational decisions based on 24 hours of data or 6 days of data, 7 days of data. Like, actually look at the data for the last 30 days, dig in, understand what's going on, and then you can move forward. I mean. I woke up this morning. I was like, oh wow, like we had a decent day on Amazon selling 7-packs. Like, that was really cool. That was unexpected. So I said to my wife, Carly, I'm like, Carly, like, we sold more 7-packs on Amazon yesterday than we sold in the last 5 days on our website. And she's like, congratulations. Like, she's stoked. Like, she's excited. Like, she sees the optimism and sees the potential. And I'm sitting here going, man, like I'm like Debbie Downer or whatever. What's the guy from the Muppets that's always angry? Like, it's tough. And I'm glad we busted out the cameras and the microphones, because if this can save one of you guys or gals from, having the same level of despair or making stupid mistakes, we've done the right thing.
And again, context, and this, I don't think this is right. I'm just going to tell you this is, again, how other companies do it. Back to Target, because I don't know, it just is in my head right now. Do you know how many times an average Target buyer gets to touch their assortment and bring in new items in a given year?
Wait, back up. An average buyer gets to do what?
How many times can a buyer for a category at Target bring in new items and change their assortment in a given year?
So I'm going to ask you a couple questions because I want to take an educated guess.
Say I manage the cereal category. How often do I get to bring in new vendors, new flavors, new items into my cereal assortment per year?
12.
12 times?
12 times you get to manage it.
Average category is going to refresh 1 or 2 times a year.
So the cereal aisle only gets 1 refresh a year. So what you walk in there and see today, it's only going to change once throughout the year?
1 or 2. I don't know cereal off the top of my head, but a lot of the categories I work with, it's 1 time a year.
No shit.
So think about that. If you run, and we're not talking a small business, cereal, and I don't know cereal specifically at Target, I'm just assuming, is hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And the buyer who is responsible for that category gets 1 shot a year to make all the changes, all of the new item recommendations, all the new vendors, all the flavors. They got to get it right because it's going to sit there for a year. They don't get to go in a week and say, oh shit, that item's not working, they don't get to go in and say, oh my God, my price points are totally fucked up. One.
That's wild.
Or two, or maybe three. I don't know, but it's not more than three. I'm fairly certain. My categories when I was at Target, I was lucky if I got 4 times a year because I was very seasonal. But even that, 4 times a year on a $250 million business, you better be fucking right.
That blows my mind because in my mind, it's like, why don't they do it every day? Why don't they do it every week? Why don't they do it every month? Right? I mean, there's logic and there's reason behind it, but yeah, that's wild. That is wild.
We'll just put it in perspective. Like, it's why you have to, I go back to, you've got to really think through your business plan and what you're doing and why you're doing it. Make sure that you really honestly believe in it and that you've checked it with other industry people and that people have shot holes in it and you're listening to other inputs instead of just your own voice, because like, you should put something out there and let it sit for a few months and let it gain traction instead of change.
That's awesome, Matt. I mean, I think this is it's a great way to put it. So, I mean, to wrap it up, I think, are we there? I mean, I would tell you this: don't make irrational changes based off of emotion. Do it based off of logic. Do it based off of data. Give things time, like Matt said, because giving them time, you're 4 days, 5 days is not time. It's no different than the people that talk about the stock market. You can't look at the stock market in a 2-day, 3-day span. You need to look at it once a year to get a true picture of what it's doing. And then number 3, this is brutal. I mean, it's tough. And it's going to be normal, and it's okay to have these massive ups and downs. What's not okay is to make irrational decisions and drastically change your business model because of how you view it in a short time span. Did I forget anything, Matt?
No, I think just, my one piece of advice, and I've said this a few times and we need to actually do it, is you got to have your list of here's the things we do every week. Here's our plan. Here's what we're doing. And then anytime that you are emotional and you want to make changes and you got crazy ideas, put them in a list of the someday list, some bucket over on the side of what about this? What about that? Shiny object. I don't call it crazy land. I don't care. But whenever you feel the urge to do something very different than what you're doing now, put it to the side and then spend time once a week or once a month looking at that list of things like, okay, should we do something with this bucket or not? And really think through and evaluate instead of just letting emotion, dictate what you do.
I love it, Matt. I hope this helped everybody out there. And, I know Matt put some stuff in at the end, but reach out to us. I mean, I can't say that enough. If there's anything we can do or any guidance we can give you, that's really what we're doing this for. We want to help other businesses succeed. And I want to see other young entrepreneurs or mid-age, any entrepreneur. I want to be a resource for you to help guide you and give you feedback, bounce ideas off you. And we'll do it because we genuinely love it, not because we want to make a $350 an hour fee off of you.
Oh, we get to charge people for it?
I mean, haven't you seen that? Like, that's the new hottest thing. Like, meet with the founder of so-and-so. And then it's like, you read the founder, like, it's $350 an hour. I'm like, yeah, go fuck yourself.
Well, I might pay $350 an hour sometimes for... If it's someone who's legit done it, maybe.
All right,
we're gonna wrap this up.
We can do a whole podcast on that.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks,
Till
everybody.
next time. See ya.